Hello everyone and welcome to DownUnderSteer. In today's show, we wrap up the recent test session at Catalunya. We announce the winner of the Guess What Corner This Is competition. We give a rundown on a new technical innovation which has been witnessed, the W duct. We attempt to explain it further, and we put our balls on the chopping board and make some bets for who's going to win the 2012 championship this year. Because Renault weren't able to make it to Catalunya, I've decided to take the Lotus out there myself, which is the footage you're seeing in the background today. Joining me as always, we have Jem Rajira.
Hello.
Let's just jump straight into it. Guess what corner this is. So, what was it?
So it's at Turkey, Istanbul Park, looking down the short straight into turn 7.
That's correct. The very intuitive Nutbag 36 had a crack at it and successfully guessed the corner as turn 7 at Turkey. We do have a new one for you, so we'll guess what corner this is. We do love your feedback on this, so please take some guesses. You can email us or you can drop a comment onto the YouTube video itself.
Yeah, and this is an easy one. I think if you're even halfway decent F1 fan, you should be able to pick this corner.
So, Jem, we've just finished the first test session at Catalunya.
Yes.
What do you reckon?
Well, I think the big news to come out of the whole test session was the fact that Lotus only managed 7 laps with Grosjean before they were forced to retire from the test. So rumours, of course, as they always are at this time of the year, are flying around the paddock. But most rumours seem to point to the fact that Lotus had a problem with the front of their car where the suspension attaches to the main body. With the number of mid to high speed corners that the Catalunya track has on it, the flaw became apparent much quicker than it did at Jerez. But when they reported the problem back to the Lotus home base, they found the same problem in the chassis that they had run at Jerez a couple of weeks ago. So for that reason, Lotus had to pull out. And you have to wonder, Frankie, how much is this going to hurt in the build-up to the first Grand Prix of the year?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they're missing out on 4 whole days of testing, which is very crucial to the start of the season. We know the teams have very little pre-season testing available to them. However, the good news coming out of that is Lotus did apply to the other teams, and they've been granted an extra day of testing at the track, which I would assume would happen next week when they start the second session.
Perhaps they'll start a day early. You still have to think these test sessions are crucial cockpit time for Kimi Räikkönen, who's been out of the sport for a couple of years now. He would have been relying on 12 full days of testing before the Melbourne Grand Prix, and now he's only going to get 9. So you wonder how much will that affect his performance in the first few races of the season?
That's right. I think it definitely will hurt them. And I mean, it's not like they were deliberately missing out on testing, such as the Mercedes team decided to do, skipping the Jerez test completely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they would have gone into this test on the assumption that they'd be able to complete a 4-day program, so they're going to have to squish all that down into one day. I mean, it's definitely going to put them behind.
Speaking of Mercedes, quite a lot of rumours going around the Catalunya paddock regarding some quite spiffy technical innovations which they're running on this car. One which has been talked about muchly in the last week or so is what they're labelling as the W duct.
Yeah, so how does this work exactly?
All right, and I'm going to have a crack at explaining that for you. At the very front of the nose tip of the Mercedes car, there is a small oval-shaped opening. They're using a very innovative method of channeling that air, which comes into this small hole at the front of the wing, into different channels inside the wing. They're actually channeling it into separate veins which run down the support posts for the front wing and then out to separate parts of the main front wing. When the car's travelling forwards, the air is hitting it dead on and it's going down the main channel.
So when you're in a straight line, you don't need as much downforce, obviously.
That's right. And as soon as the car starts turning to either side, the flow of that air going through the small little hole is channeled to each side, and it actually sends it to different parts of the front wing, giving it a stalling effect on different parts of the wing. So if you're turning right, it's going to start stalling the inside wing.
Right, okay.
Whereas when you're turning the other way, it's going to stall the inside of the wing again.
All right.
No moving parts involved.
Yep.
Pure magical trickery on behalf of Mercedes there. And this is the stuff that it really gets me excited about F1 is seeing these really, really tricky innovations.
Yeah, exactly.
Bringing together
these kind of radical interpretations of the rules. So this is quite an important technical innovation for Mercedes, and it sounds like they're going to be able to get a fairly decent amount of front downforce. The problem with that is you can get more front downforce, but that still has to be balanced by the amount of downforce you're producing at the rear as well. It will certainly help on the tighter, twistier tracks you'd expect, where you need more bite at the front of the car.
Well, I guess that's the other innovation which people have started to talk about around the Mercedes car. We don't have double diffusers this year, but there is talk that the Mercedes team is using parts of the rear of the car to vent air through holes, possibly getting some aero benefit from that as well.
Okay, so it begins to make more sense why Mercedes may have sat out the first test, because it sounds like additional running in their wind tunnel with all these complicated aerodynamic trickery going on would have probably been more useful to sort of correlate it right before you send the car out on track.
That's it. If you've got all this type of high-tech witchery in your car, you don't really want to get the word out about it quickly. So perhaps that also supports their decision to miss the first test.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if you don't release your car until 2 weeks later than everyone else's, it gives people less amount of time to try and develop a system for themselves. Will it pay off?
Moving along from testing.
What are we, 19 days out now from the first Grand Prix?
So given the information you know now, are you prepared to place a bet to who's going to win the 2012 championship?
Yep, I think Sebastian Vettel will win the drivers, and I think McLaren will win the constructors.
All right, tell me about it.
I think Sebastian Vettel is riding a huge crest of confidence right now. I mean, he's just notched back-to-back world champions, particularly dominant campaign last season. So I don't see why there's any reason why he shouldn't do it again. Appears from testing, obviously take everything with a grain of salt, that the difference between McLaren and Red Bull may not be as big, but you just don't know. Red Bull could be sandbagging and Vettel could come out and set a pole lap 1 second faster than anyone else. But I still think he's a favourite, even if the Red Bull doesn't have the performance advantage. If McLaren's car is closer to Red Bull's, then I think that the two of them combined may be able to just get McLaren Mercedes ahead of Red Bull. So what do you think, Frankie?
Well, I'm going to go out there and place a bet on Button for the championship this year.
Right.
For the last couple of years, as you know, I've been fairly strongly supporting Fernando Alonso.
Yep.
I don't think he's got the car to do it this year from what we've seen of testing. Button, however, I think particularly in the last section of the 2011 season, he just showed a calm confidence and just great skill in many of the races ending the season there. I don't have the same confidence in Hamilton that I have in Button for a start. I think he's too unreliable. It does sadden me a little bit to not be 100% behind Mark Webber.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, he is setting himself up for a great season here, but I still think he's not going to have the same sort of pace that Vettel has shown all of last year.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Webber was comprehensively outclassed by Vettel last year. Who do you pick for your constructors?
I'm going to go for McLaren for the constructors as well.
Oh, okay.
Even though I just dissed Hamilton, I still reckon they're going to be able to pull in enough points to take the constructors as well. That wraps it up for this week. Don't forget to join us online. You can email us at DownUnderSteer@gmail.com with your questions and comments. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, please do. And you can also follow us on Twitter.